Hi everyone, it's Nurse Connie again, here to talk to you today about processed food. So, processed food, what is it? Well, it's pretty simple. Just kind of think of it in terms of anything that looks completely different than the way it originally looked. So, for instance, turkey. A lot of people like to eat turkey sandwiches. Well, if I bake a turkey in the oven, it's pretty minimally processed as long as it's not loaded with and injected with nitrates and sodium and additives. But when I bake a turkey, it looks like a turkey. When I go to the deli and I buy turkey, it doesn't really look like turkey anymore. It's kind of in a rolled up version of a white round blob. And then when they slice it, it doesn't really look a whole lot like turkey. It might not even taste like turkey. That's because it's processed. It's been injected with additives. It has had all of its bones removed. It's been ground up and pressed back together with water and other things added to it so that it lasts a long time on the shelf and we can slice it and make it into sandwiches. Some other things that are processed, think about bacon, right? When I get a pork roast, it doesn't really look like the pig that it came from, but it's minimally processed. When I buy bacon, it looks totally different than where it came from. It doesn't look like the pig that it came from. It has a lot of nitrate, a lot of sodium, a lot of additives added back into it so that it can last a long time without rotting. So it is processed. But some things that you might not think of as processed foods would be things like cereal, right? If I buy a box of cornflakes, the cornflakes don't look anything like the corn that it came from. It's because it's highly processed. Cheese is highly processed. Cheese is made with different enzymes and different additives and salts and milk, but it doesn't look like the milk that it came from. Potato chips. Potato chips look nothing like the potato that they came from. Sausage, hot dogs. What are hot dogs anyway? So hot dogs are highly processed as well. Even granola bars, which are marketed to us as being very healthy snacks, are highly processed. They may have nuts in them, they may have whole grains in them, but they don't look like they did originally when they came right off of the wheat shaft or the oat shaft. And they're loaded with a lot of sugar and different additives as well, sometimes even coated in chocolate. So it looks processed. It looks different than it originally looked. So why should we avoid these processed foods? What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is the additives, such as the salts and the sugars and the nitrates and the chemicals and the coloring, all of which have been associated with different types of diseases, such as hot dogs have actually been suggested as being a carcinogen, which can cause cancer because of the nitrates and all of the additives and the colorings that are put into them. If you think about cereal, I think about the brightly colored O-shaped cereal that's in yellows and greens and blues. I mean, what plant did that come from? I'm not sure, right? It's highly processed. And those food colorings have been associated with things like ADD and ADHD and mental health disorders and different diseases of inflammation, certainly diabetes, because of all of the sugar that's been added to them. Certain processed foods have also been linked to heart disease and definitely kidney disease. And we're seeing a huge increase in the number of places that you can go for dialysis if you have kidney disease. And one of the reasons is because of all of the additives and all of the chemicals that we've put into our foods and all the processed foods that we're eating out of convenience. So that is why processed foods are so bad for us. They're highly linked to disease. So what do we do about it? We're busy people. We need quick and easy. We need to get food on the table. We need to fill our bellies and be able to get back to life. Well, think farmer's market. Think garden. Think from scratch, homemade. Think of 5 ingredients or less. If we can kind of keep that in our thoughts and help us to better prepare what we're going to have to eat for the week, then we'll do a better job avoiding those processed foods. When I say try to stick with 5 ingredients or less, I'm not talking about spices, I'm not talking about herbs, because you can herb and spice things up and make them taste delicious. And that's not processing the food. If I take a turkey and add garlic and onions and celery and a little pinch of salt and some pepper and maybe some thyme or whatever, those things are not hurting the turkey, which aren't going to hurt me when I eat it. So those things are fine. But when I say 5 ingredients or less, if you're buying something that's in a package, then it's processed. So if you buy something out of a box, you want to look at those ingredients. If there's more than 5 ingredients, again, not including the spices and herbs, then you can pretty much safely bet that it's processed and it has harmful chemicals in it that you should try to avoid. When I say stick to farmer's market, you want to try to get as fresh as possible. So if you're going to buy bread, try to buy bakery bread. Bread, it only takes 5 ingredients to make a loaf of bread: flour, water, a pinch of sugar, yeast, and a pinch of salt. And lo and behold, I have bread. But oftentimes when you look at a loaf of bread in the grocery store, it has 48 or more ingredients. Why in the world does our bread need that many ingredients? Well, it's to preserve that bread so that it doesn't turn into one big moldy mess. Well, unfortunately, what that means is when I consume that highly processed, highly preserved bread, then my body has trouble breaking it down. And if my body has trouble breaking it down, I'm going to have things like GERD or gastroesophageal reflux, heartburn. I'm going to start having indigestion and digestion issues. I might have constipation. I might just not feel well. I might feel sluggish. Over time, the more of those foods that I eat, the worse I'm gonna feel. So you wanna eat as fresh as you can. Kind of stick with the outside of the market, right? You wanna get fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh meat, fresh seafood, nuts, beans, berries, and really try to stay out of the center where most of the processed foods are. Now, if you need to get some convenience foods like frozen fruits and vegetables, frozen fruits and vegetables are fine. When they become unhealthy is when you start buying them with cheese sauce and you start buying them with garlic butter sauce and herbs and spice sauces, because now we've turned that fruit and vegetable into more of a processed food. So make sure that you season it yourself. You want to be in charge of those things as much as you possibly can. But for convenience sake, if you need to buy frozen, go for it. Just buy the versions that don't have so much process and chemical in it. So I hope I've helped you better understand processed foods and how to avoid them. And remember, think fresh. Take care.